Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Battle Rhythm, Empowering Veteran Home Ownership. We'll be hosted today by Jeanette Gillis. Jeanette is the director of the network at America's Warrior Partnership. The network provides local veteran servant organizations with a connection to national resources when a veteran's request cannot be met locally. To find out more about the network, please visit America's Warrior Partnership .the network .org/the network. I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Jeanette to get us rolling today. So Jeanette, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you so much, Allison. So I'd like to welcome all of you today. Welcome to our affiliate communities, our 4-Star Alliance members, veteran serving organizations, and all of our guests. Thank you so much for being here today. I am really excited about this topic. For one, I know housing is such a big issue in the veteran community, and the Department of Veterans Affairs Loan Guarantee Service has long been providing opportunities for upward mobility to military community by opening doors to home ownership. For eligible veterans who have served on active duty and in the National Guard or Reserve, this program has been one of the most significant benefits offered through the VA. So today, I am excited, and the rest of us on our team, to have Jennifer Tillery here. She is the policy analyst and in loan guarantee services at the Department of Veterans Affairs. She's also going to have Dan Schmoll with her on this presentation, and we're excited about that. And we'll also hear from Antonio Roundtree. He is the Vice President of Community Engagement at First Community Mortgage. So those are our folks today. We're excited to have them, and I am going to turn over the presentation to Jennifer so that she can get us started.
Hi, good afternoon, or if you're before lunch, good morning, or depending on where in the country you are. I'm Jennifer Tillery, as mentioned. Actually a policy analyst with VA Central Office, and I'm actually stationed in Atlanta, Georgia. So what I wanted to go over today, and it's about this 15-minute presentation, and please, if I'm going over time, please give me the Jeopardy 30-second music if I'm going too fast, or if I'm going. We have a lot of good information. Some of you had some good questions and comments beforehand. So what I want to do in this first 15 minutes of the presentation is just kind of go over some basics with VA, and I've tried to incorporate your questions and comments into that. People ask us, and this kind of goes into our breakout session this afternoon, about VA loan guarantee and what is home loan guarantee. First of all, this kind of goes two-part, and that it's a myth. The word is home loan guarantee. A lot of people are under the impression that we are guaranteed a VA home loan. Well, you're guaranteed a certificate of eligibility, which I'm going to commonly refer to as a COE during this presentation. You'll hear that one through the lenders. Do you have your COE? People like sometimes, they're doing this for the first time. They don't even know what a COE is. That's a certificate of eligibility. And that is based on your service time and your discharge, if you have been discharged. So what is the program? It is a home loan program that is actually given through a lender. Now, while we have a lender here with us today, I'm great that we're going to have this presentation is going to be from a lender's viewpoint too. But I have to say it, whether it was him or anybody else, we do not actually. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. My apologies. We do not endorse any particular lender. And that was one of the questions that came out. It's like, how do I select a lender? That is up to the individual. You may have friends and family. You may have personal knowledge. It may be somebody you bank with. But VA has over 1,300 lenders that are VA approved. So it's a matter of choosing your own program, your own lender to qualify you for the program. But what will happen is that veterans, active duty, service members, their surviving spouses, and Reserve and National Guard members are actually eligible for the program depending on when they served. Okay, what are some of the benefits of a VA home loan? Well, the first one that we always hear, that maybe these are not necessarily in the same order, but that it is a benefit that you earned as a veteran, that a veteran obtains a VA home loan. So it allows you to purchase a home as a primary residence, It allows you to, we have several refinance options, which I'll get into in a few moments since it's some other slides. And this is the big one that's for the VA. We're almost the only program that is left that has a no down payment and no mortgage insurance. So when I say down payment, you contract for a home for $300,000. And as long as that home appraises for at least $300,000, then you're eligible as long as you credit and income qualify, which I'll have a slide for in a few moments. You will actually be able to obtain that home for a loan amount for that amount. We allow up to 100% financing. Now, just 12 months ago, 18 months ago, we heard a lot of veterans, and we knew this was out there, that people were paying more for homes than what they were valued. And, VA, that was part of the myth. It's like, oh no, can I pay for more for a house than it's worth? Yes, you can pay for more than it appraises for, but VA won't let you finance. Just like if someone had gone FHA or another program, they could not pay. They could pay for more than they wanted, but they couldn't finance for more than they wanted. In today's market, homes are appraising about where the sales prices are. So that's just one of those myths that were out there, that was out there at the time. One person asked, hey, what's the difference between a first-time home buyer and a second-time home buyer? With VA, you can use your benefit more than once. And that's one of those myths that are out there. They think, oh my goodness, I used that benefit back in the 70s or even the 90s or the early 2000s. Can I use it again? What happens is with the VA home loan program, generally a veteran buys a home, pays that home's off, we restore their entitlement, and they can use it again. But with Congress increasing the loan limits, it is possible to have one house and maybe you've occupied it as your primary residence, and now you want to rent that house out and buy another primary residence. You can do that. So that's one of the things. So I'm just going to ask a quick question. You don't have to answer it out loud, or you can put it in the chat if you want to. Can anybody tell me what the maximum VA loan amount is if you've never used your entitlement, or if you've used your entitlement, it's been restored? Can anybody guess? Okay, well, guess what? There really isn't a loan amount. So yes, we are making loans that are over $1 million without a down payment. Can you believe it? And that's just not in California or New York. That's right here in the South, where I'm from. We're doing $1 million homes. I would never have thought to seen that in all my years. Can you imagine buying a $1 million home or above without a down payment? As long as you credit and quality and income qualify, you can do that. So I'll go over that, some more of that in just a few moments. VA does limit the closing costs that the veteran can pay, and that's a benefit for you. And whether or not you use a real estate agent in the transaction, that's where good negotiating skills comes in, is that where VA doesn't allow the veteran to pay the real estate commission, there may be some other fees that the seller will be willing to pay, and it's all negotiating. Like I said, with the lender, they may say the interest rate is X, but you might say, hey, I'd like for the lender to pay some of my closing costs, or I would like the seller to pay some of my closing costs. It's all a matter of negotiating. It's kind of like when you decide to buy a car. You don't take the first offer, do you? When they offer you when they don't take the first offer. Think of that in the way of a mortgage, is that you're negotiating with the real estate agents helping you negotiate, and then you're negotiating with that lender. And this is big right now. Loans assumed by a qualified borrower. Interest rates now, they're in the 6s, 5, 6, 7s, depending on what day of the week and what month it is. 12 months ago, 6 months ago, they were in the 2% range. So VA actually does allow someone to assume their mortgage. Now, let me give you a little word of advice on this that we don't have a lot of time for, but I want to give you a word of advice. To have your entitlement restored to you, a veteran does have to assume your loan and substitute their entitlement for yours. But if for some reason you don't need your entitlement back, or you only want to use remaining entitlement, a non-veteran can assume your mortgage. And then we have a whole department that if the unfortunate thing happens, if you go into default, if you have monetary issues, if you have some issues, VA has an entire department that assist veterans who become delinquent on their loans, to work with your servicer to find options to help you retain that home. Like I said earlier, there are over 1,300 lenders in our program, small, medium, and large, in all different sizes. And what's great about eligibility, and one of the questions was, why do some veterans not go VA? Well, there's a lot of different answers to that, but the main one is, there's one of these myths that VA loans take forever to make the loan, that it takes forever. In general, VA loans are just a day or two slower than conventional financing. And right now, when I started at VA, I mean, certificates of eligibility sometimes took 2 and 3 weeks. You had to mail in a certificate to a regional office, and it took forever to get that certificate. Most of our eligibility determinations now, over 77%, are actually done automatically. That is mainly through the lender actually requesting your certificate of eligibility for you. Or right now, just want to let you know that e-benefits for the loan guarantee department is converting over to va.gov. So there is a rollout right now where certificates of eligibility, when you log into e-benefits, it may not give you the option to go into va.gov because it is a system that's moving this in slowly to not for all veterans, to make sure that our system is handling it with all the different information. So if you are thinking about buying a home right now or refinancing, and you do try to go to e-benefits or va.gov and you receive a message that it's not available, it's just because it has not been fully rolled out. But we always suggest that you have your lender do that for you. We do purchases and refinances. You do have to occupy or intend to occupy that home as a residence. So if you're on active duty and you're being stationed over in Germany or somewhere, your spouse can meet the occupancy requirement for you. And one thing about VA, yes, what I mentioned earlier about a VA guaranteed loan, you do have to have satisfactory credit, and you mustn't satisfy any lender requirements above and beyond VA. Here's another just quick question for you to throw out there, and feel free to put it in the chat if you want to. Can anybody tell me the minimum VA credit score? And you've probably heard that number 620, 700 out there. For VA purposes, we do not have a minimum credit score. As long as your credit is satisfactory, and you could have had a period where your credit wasn't as satisfactory. There were some problems. We've all gone through that. But what happens is we have time periods. So for example, after a bankruptcy, 2 years after the bankruptcy, well, your credit score may not have come up that high since that bankruptcy because you may not have attained new credit, but that VA doesn't limit that. But that's why we put on there must satisfy lender requirements, because a lender could have a minimum credit score that VA doesn't. And again, because of shortness of time, I just wanted to be able to provide this to you. We have purchase loans. We have 2 types of refinances. The interest rate reduction refinancing loan, what we call the EARL. It's also called, excuse me, a streamline. This is when you have a VA loan and you're just going to reduce your interest rate. And then, of course, we have cash out refinance loans, and you don't even have to have a VA loan on your home now. You could actually go from a conventional loan, FHA, or some other type of program and refinance to VA. What are the steps to obtain a VA home loan? And this may not be in the order that you're used to, believe it or not, because notice how we've got apply for a certificate of eligibility and obtain pre-approval from the lender. We want you to do that first, because when you credit income qualify, and every veteran, whether they discharged as an E1 or they discharged as an officer, every veteran obtains the same amount of entitlement. It's based on their credit and income, how much they can qualify for. So we would prefer that you actually apply for the certificate either through the lender, obtain that pre-approval through the lender. And most real estate agents nowadays won't even show you homes until you get a pre-qualified letter. But that way, if you could only afford a $300,000 house and you qualified at, say, at 5% interest, and because of today's market, and who knows what the market's going to do, every day the rates fluctuate up and down. If the rate goes up to 6%, you're not going to be able to afford a $300,000. But if it goes down to 4%, you might be able to afford more. So we want you to be able to know exactly what you can purchase or you can refinance before you go out and make some decisions. So then you find a property, you complete the application process with a lender. Most of our lenders, 99%, or what we call VA automatic. They do not have to send the loan to us at VA. They do all the work for you. They do all the processing. They do all the underwriting, and you close and move in. There's some great resources. And the next slide that I'm actually going to show you actually has a roadmap type different information, but all those email addresses that I'm going to be giving you, telephone numbers. These are all just great resources, and they're just great about, and again, it may be so many people are thinking I need to find the house first, then go get loan approval. We suggest you do just the opposite. Okay. Within Loan Guarantee, and this is what I mentioned earlier, we have 3 separate departments. We have loan production, which does the certificates of eligibility and does the underwriting of loans, or does the review of loans. We review loans after they close, and some very minute part that we look at beforehand. We did have construction evaluation, which they're the ones that actually issue review the notice of value. That's called, once the appraisal is done, they issue what's called a notice of value with the appraiser and with the lender. And then loan administration, actually, if that's, that's the department we hope you never have to go to, but it's great to know that it's there if it's needed. And they're the ones that help veterans retain their homes with alternatives to foreclosure. VA, even in the market that we had last year, I mean, we actually made more than 746,000 loans last year, 410,000 that were purchase loans. I mean, look at these records. We have broken records over the last 2 years. And also last year, we saved homes that we helped over 205,000 veterans that were affected by the COVID-19 pandemic actually have different options to save their homes from foreclosure. And actually, we actually have helped more than 1.3 million veterans since 2009. So, that's one of the myths. People were saying VA loans weren't working last year. VA loans were working last year and everything like that. So my breakout session, which I'll be going over in just a few moments, but this is just going to be some of the myths and everything like that. So I appreciate your time. I know I went through that very quickly, but I wanted to make sure that we have time for Q&A and everything, and for all of our presenters.
Thank you, Jennifer. Next, I'd like to welcome Antonio. Antonio is going to talk to us about his perspective from the lender.
Good afternoon, wherever you are. My name is Antonio Roundtree, and I'm the Vice President of Community Engagement with First Community Mortgage. We're based here out of Murfreesboro. You probably never heard of it, but it's a nice little city just south of Nashville. One of the first things that we wanted to I wanted to just kind of discuss with you, is just kind of drive home what Jennifer just talked about the process and how it goes through. This will help you and ensure a smooth transaction. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. Okay, so we have our Home Zero program here at First Community Mortgage. There are no lender fees. What this does, as Jennifer just talked about, it saves you money. And of course, you're a home buyer, you're a first-time home buyer, this really will help with those fees. And of course, the original fees, when we talk about them, are origination and then of course processing fees. Now, what does that mean to you? The potential, first of all, no down payment is potential savings, and it's less out of pocket. This really will help, especially when you're purchasing a home. There's a whole lot of other things that come with purchasing a home. So at least, you'll be able to save these money on these fees, and then of course appropriate that money for other things, upgrades, or just moving expenses, or just actually having additional savings really can be helpful to you. No mortgage insurance. Private mortgage insurance is it can be very expensive. And what simply you'll hear the lender term PMI, it's just a required with a conventional loan in which you down payment is provided for less than 20% of the purchase price. So technically on a $200,000 home, you would be looking at probably $40,000 down to avoid PMI. So, but not having that, you just save more, which once again, you can actually qualify for just a little bit more home because you don't have that. Also, the seller can give you 4% of your closing costs, which really will help as well. And then, of course, family members, loved ones can actually give you gift funds for the closing costs. So you can potentially get into that home with zero or very little down. All right, now here, once again, as Jennifer showed you this earlier, here are the steps and just how to get started. Getting pre-qualified is very important that you choose a lender. Of course, you can choose any lender for if you choose us, but any qualified lender, we pretty much are going to have the same standard guidelines to actually get get your loan done. So you want to get pre-qualified, and I would tell you we're going to take 1 and 4, and kind of put those together, because technically up front, it just would help you and then ensure a seamless buying process. If you, when get pre-qualified, you actually have your documents, and those are income documents, DD Form 214s, and all the other documents that you need. Once you've been pre-approved, then it's time to start shopping. Now, you don't have to work with a realtor. Of course, we refer that you do, I would probably, recommend that you did, but of course you don't have to. You can go with a local builder, or there's plenty of open houses out there, but I would recommend that you work with a realtor. And the way that's going to go is simply you'll meet with the realtor, and then we'll have a discussion. What you like, what you don't like, where your preferences are, and then he or she will begin to send you homes in the area that you look for, and then of course all the ones that actually fit your guidelines. Once you went out and reviewed a couple of the other ones, you will receive a purchase or a sales contract. Then they will give your closing date. They will then send all of that information to me. Then of course, you've provided all the documents. We will go ahead and get it sent up, process, and then go into underwriting. We will go ahead and order your appraisal, and that's where a certified VA appraisal will come out and tell you exactly what fair market value of your homes are, and the homes in that area. And then, of course, you will, once that comes back satisfactory, you will go through final approval, and then you will go through closing. Closing is just at a local attorney's office, title company, or either they even have mobile notaries as well to come out and close your loan for you. And then once again, this is my information. My presentation was kind of short because I wanted to kind of open it up to some quick Q&A. If you had any questions or anything that I can help you and guide you along with the process. Do we have any questions?
Antonio, we do. Let's see. Can you get pre-approved for a county auction? That's one question.
I would say yes and no. You're going through an auction. Obviously, you're pre-approved, and let's just say you're pre-approved for $300,000. Yes, you could go in and bid, of course, bid on that house, and then of course show them that you are, pre-approved with First Community Mortgage, because what we will give you is a pre-qualification letter. It will tell you how much you're approved for. That will go to you, and of course, if you're using a realtor, you will have that realtor as well.
And if I can jump in on that too. Because there's some very interesting, that's a good question on that. What you said, Antonio, is exactly right about bidding and everything on it. What's interesting about a VA loan is one of the benefits of a VA loan is what I was mentioning earlier, that you can pay for more than a house than it's worth, but you can't finance that. So for example, if you bid 300,000 and the appraisal came back and that home was only worth 270 and you didn't have $30,000 cash. So that is that's some of the same benefits. And the auction company has to agree to that, because there has to be in the contract that they have to be able to say, if this home does not appraise, that they will let you out of the contract. That is the sticking point. Some auction houses will not let you out of a contract without financial loss. And that's one thing that VA does not allow. In other words, if you had to make earnest money deposits and things like that. So that would be the catcher on that. So that's what I say. That's two sides. His answer was right, and my answer is right on that one.
Yeah. And then also another great point is, if you're in a smaller town of 30, 40,000 people, it would probably be a little bit more easier. But when you're in a town like Murfreesboro, Nashville, Atlanta, you're bidding against investors, you're bidding against so many people, then it would nearly be impossible. So I would say, you can do it, but I really wouldn't focus on that as much as working with my realtor and just finding a property that was already there to go and good to go. And then also something you have to realize too is that what condition is that property in? There's a reason why it's being sold like that. So you always want to be mindful of those as well. Next question.
Okay. All right. Have you learned that a certain demographic utilizes a VA loan more than others? This is a two-parter. And the second part of that is, who is the perfect VA loan recipient based on who has actually used them?
There's demographics all over the place. We've got everybody from an E1 that's 18 years old all the way up to, veterans over 100 years old. It's when we say there's no perfect veteran, all veterans are perfect. So I would say, that it's just, different people use it at different times in life. The first time home buyer, just like any other first time home buyer, or someone, that has discharged from the military, retired, or just starting in the civilian workforce. So, every veteran, and that's, I know in some states, and I know we're nationwide, in some states, veterans are protected classes. So this word of advice, if you're in one of those states and you can't ask these questions, that's fine. But, the way I look at it, when I go out and train actually lenders on how to better help veterans, or when I talk to veteran service officers, first question I want everybody to ask, if they can't, are you a veteran? Because there are so many myths about, oh, I can't use it. I mean, I noticed in the chat one thing, what's the difference between a veteran and a non-veteran? A veteran is actually a person, of course, who served honorably in the armed forces for the correct amount of time and it's eligible for the certificate. Everybody else is a non-veteran. Now, a surviving spouse, we actually, if a surviving spouse qualifies for the benefit, we actually consider that for VA purposes as a veteran using the program and everything. And then somebody asked, came up in the chat, what's the difference between a first home buyer and a second home buyer? Now, in the mortgage world, first time home buyer, of course, means first time buying a home. There are certain programs like with FHA and certain programs that after so many years, even though if you've bought a home before, you can qualify again as a first time home buyer. With VA, it's not that complicated. First time home buyer is a veteran who's using the VA program for the first time. Any time else is just subsequent use. So that was one of the questions that came up, and I thought that tied in with that.
Yeah. Okay. So I've got another one that you two will be able to have some fun with. Discuss the difference between lending fees and closing costs. What's the difference between those two?
I'll let you start on that, Antonio.
Okay, well, they're kind of tied in. Lender fees are generally origination, and then of course there are processing fees. Lender makes so much for originating the loan. It's a percentage, and then of course there are fees to process that loan. And then of course, if you use any other type of programs that are out there, there may be a program fee for that particular lender. Closing costs are the attorney's fees. That's going to cover, and of course, one of the other fees, is also appraisal fee that was into the lender fees. Closing costs are the cost to close your loans. That's the title search. You're going to want a title search for own your home. Of course, you want to make sure that you get a clean title. And then of course they have attorney's fees. They have register. They're going to register the loan with the local. They're going to register the deed. So those are fees on that side. So you've got the lender side, and then of course you've got the attorney's closing costs that actually are included. That are of course at the end. Of course they're all added now. Once again, by you having no fees with us, then of course that is zero fees. You're still responsible for your attorney's fees, but now once again that can easily be taken care of by a gift letter, or that can be they can be taken care of by the up to 4% that that the seller can give you in closing costs.
Sure. And just to go on that's why I said it's when I was mentioning earlier about negotiating, because you know how much cash you have on hand, how much cash that you would want to keep in your bank accounts. So that's one thing. When you're negotiating the sales price, you're also negating those closing costs. And so VA allows the lender to charge up to a 1% origination fee. And then there's all, like he was mentioning, there's all those fees. There's what we call the third parties fee, like the appraisal, the title insurance, and things like that. So that's all negotiating. Years ago, and the way we said it, it's the real estate commission 7-8% already. The seller is already paying that for you, and then closing costs can run thousands of dollars. So that's just something to negotiate. And if you get pre-approved, your lender can also tell you what their reasonable and customary closing costs are. So when you go to negotiate, hey, I'm in a $300,000 house. It's going to cost, I'm just going to throw a number out there. It's going to cost $8,000 to close this loan. Hey, if my seller's willing to pay up to this much in a closing cost, I can walk in with zero money down, literally, not even no money down, but also no closing costs. So it's just a matter of negotiating.
Right.
And
So,
not to skip, but someone don't feel sorry about your question that you said I made a comment about a non-veteran assuming a loan. Right. When you have a VA home loan, and now you're going to sell that house. You can sell it the traditional way. You can let anybody purchase that home and your entitlement is restored to you. But if you are going to let somebody assume it, in other words, if you're going to let someone take over the payments with it, anybody can assume it, just like anybody can buy your VA home from you. But if you let someone assume it and take over the payments, if you let a non-veteran, someone without a certificate of eligibility, what's going to happen is that, of course, VA is guaranteeing the loan for the lender. That's why you didn't make a down payment. So your entitlement remains with that loan. But if you let a veteran assume it, again, this is an assumption, taking over payments, you have to have a veteran that's willing to substitute their entitlement for your entitlement. So that, I'm sorry if I confused you on that, but that's a good question too, because that is very popular right now. That's a very great option right now.
all right. Well, I think we might have one more. Let's see if we have one more quick question before we have to go to our breakout activity. Yeah, if we can take just a second. We have a question. Antonio, you're a veteran. Can you tell us about your experience with a VA home loan?
Okay. Yes, I'm great. I've actually done quite a few. I bought my first home when I was 23, and of course went down and met with someone because I refused to rent a house when I could buy one. So I went and talked with them, took my information down. Great process. It was a little bit slower then. Obviously, this was back in 1993 when I bought my first home. So a lot slower. It took a little bit longer, but now everything's streamlined. So moving forward, my current home used a VA loan. Of course, I can't do my own loan. So it literally took about 2 weeks, and that's heavy because most of this stuff was online. DD Form 14, I had all my documents there. Then, of course, I immediately went out and kind of, once I got my pre-approval and actually found the home that I wanted. So it was a seamless transaction. I always tell clients, you control you. So if you're doing everything that the lender asks, and you're really staying in touch with them, asking them tons of questions, I give my clients an open floor. Call me as often as you like. Call anybody on our team as often as you like, because if you have questions, I want to get you the answers. Work with great realtors in the area. We can refer some to you, or if you've seen some, there's a lot of great ones around town. But that's going to you always work with someone that is going to listen to your needs. And then, of course, get those needs fulfilled. So it's a seamless transaction. It's two-part, you doing everything that they're asking and requesting of you. And then secondly, being patient. And then really, because it gets a little bit difficult. And of course, we'll get heavy into the breakout because of, the current market. I've seen people bid on 10 homes and lose all 10. They got number 11, so those type things. So, keep an open mind, stay focused. And like I said, again, it can be very easy, and as easy as you possibly can make it.
All right. Thank you so much for that. It always kind of helps to have somebody with some personal experience with something like that. So Allison, I'm going to turn this back over to you so that you can get us set up in our breakout activity. This is something that we always look forward to each month because it's really a chance to have some one-on-one conversation. So Alex, Allison?
Thanks, Jeanette. So for the next 25 minutes, we're going to go into breakout groups. When I open the rooms, you can begin your collaboration activity. So your choices today are about the NADL program. Dan is going to be the guest person, and he is director of the National Native American Direct Loan Program. So he's there for you. The second one is Miss about VA loans. That's going to be led by Jennifer. And the last one is helpful hint. Topic number 3 is helpful hints from Antonio, because you can see he's been there around the block a bit about buying homes and can give you a lot of helpful hints so that you can turn to give to your veterans. Please, guys, in order to save as much time as possible, please don't go into long explanations about who you are. Just say your name and what organization you're from. Let's quickly get into the discussion activity. When we get back together, you'll be getting a 60-second countdown. And so I'm going to look to the leads to either come back with a couple of key points you guys discussed, or you can choose someone in your room to share out your key points, only about 3 to 4, or even just 1. So I'm going to go ahead and open those rooms. You guys have a good time. Hey, everybody. Let's see. Group number 1, the Native American Direct Loan Program. Dan, would you like to share your key points?
Sure. So we just chatted about a little bit of the history of the NADL program. It's been around since the early 90s, and for many years, it was just kind of little extra duties that we would hand off as we got applications in. Up until about a year and a half ago, they actually put together a dedicated team to facilitate this program, which was very much needed over the years, and it just really made a lot of progress this last year and a half, and the direction that we're going is really great. We're solving a lot of problems that we maybe weren't aware of the whole time that we had, and just trying to grow the program the right way. So we hit some of the questions about qualifications and things like that, whereas across the board is very similar to the regular VA loan program. It's just specifically designed to take place on reservation land for Native Americans that earn the benefit, but maybe couldn't get a bank to lend for the regular VA program on Native American reservations. So a very underutilized, but very great program that should have a lot more people aware of it than actually is out there. So feel free to spread the word.
Yep, today you've just done a good job of spreading that word for us. So I know that my friends at DMP in the Navajo Nation are very excited to hear about this program. So thank you for sharing all the information you did with them.
Awesome. Right. Yeah, we're just a phone call away. So I definitely reach out with any questions about it.
Excellent. And I'll include your information on the after action handout so people can get in touch with you who maybe listen to this after recording after the fact and wants more information, if that's okay.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Okay. So Miss Jennifer, did you choose someone to give your key points, or did you want to do it yourself?
I'll just do it myself. We were all over, and that's great. And I mean, just hearing from one that, this is the 4th time they've used their VA loan home program. So again, that was, and it was at different stages of their life. And, we mentioned just talking about, the key points of, what happens if I do want to buy a house and it appraises more than it's worth? What are my options, or what can we tell veterans are their options? So and then one thing I just mentioned is, the question is, how do I pick a lender? I'm getting ready to do it, buy a house for the first time. And, it's just, it's like everything else is you've got to find someone you're comfortable with. It's like I said, you're giving somebody your credit report, you're giving somebody all your income information. Do you want to be able to reach out to them if they may not call you back at midnight if you get nervous, but they're going to call you back. If you find a lender that says I'm going to talk to you between 9 and 5, yeah, you work between 9 and 5. So it's just a matter of finding not only someone you're comfortable with, but negotiate. And you want to find what's best for you. What's best for me may not be the best for you. So, finding a lender that's, these hours or these closing costs or this find what's best for you. And again, that phone number is there on the slides. We have actually our phone lines at VA. I know I talked about that, the lender being able to do it with you. We're open from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. So even if you're on the East Coast and it's 5:45, you're going to find somebody that's going to be answering the phone out like in our Phoenix office. So because we're all of our loan specialists are, the East Coast, the West Coast. So I'm not actually, there was someone says the direct number I can reach out to me. Actually, there's our toll-free number on there. If you have any questions about eligibility, our loan specialists are the ones that are actually there, and they're there from 9 to 6. Excuse me, 8 to 6.
8 to 6. Great. Well, I'm sure we'll have some people reaching out to that line that force with some more questions. How about the helpful hints, Antonio?
Oh, we had a fabulous breakout. Lily and Mark asked great questions. Lily was able to really speak out on her process, her and her fiance, or of course, whom is a veteran, just purchased a home. I mean, just gave helpful hints about the realtor transactions, how they interacted together, everything. We went over the pre-qualification process, what her realtor did to ensure that they got their home. It was just a great. And then, of course, she remembered one tip that I gave her, because we, of course, work on the same team years ago about only, my great financial tip to everybody, which I learned. I wish I had a thought of this, but one of the great financial tips that I've learned over the years is live off of what you see, not without what you're going to get, So in other words, I live off the net, not the gross. And then, of course, if you ever do that, it just was going to help you get that much further in life. You may not get exactly what you want at that time, but persistence, it will work for you. Mark asked great questions around attorney's fees, and we were able to go over there. Mark also asked a great question about home warranties, how many I was seeing, and then also too, great discussion around that myth a little bit about VA and appraisers and how they were. And I said, well, actually, it's a great thing that they are, because if they see some things that they don't like, that's when they can go in and negotiate those to be repaired by the seller, and down the road that is less cost to a home buyer. You're a first-time home buyer. We know that veterans, depending on what position, may not make a whole lot of money, so their money counts. So imagine with that assurance that they can get those processes, those items taken care of before they move in would just be great. But overall, just a great Q&A, and very happy to be a part of that group.
Well, thank you all. Thanks to all my presenters. I'm going to hand the presentation back over to Jeanette for closing. Jeanette?
All right. Well, thank you all. Thank you all for collaborating and for sharing today. At America's Warrior Partnership, we partner with communities to improve veterans' quality of life and thereby reduce veterans' death by suicide or self-harm. We believe that communities are best equipped to improve the quality of life for veterans, and our goal at America's Warrior Partnership, and your goal today, is to provide community partners like yourselves with support, information, and best practices to help you deliver a quality service to veterans in your community. Our next battle rhythm is on March 6th. At that time, we will be focusing on encouraging veterans engagement with the whole health model. So I'm excited about that one. I hope you are too. I think it'll be full of a lot of information, and we hope that you can attend. Thank you all so much for being here, and thank you again to our presenters. That was a great presentation and great discussion, and I hope you all learned a lot. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks. This was awesome.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you.